This biblical assassination was so brutal, the king's own body swallowed the evidence. An 18-inch blade disappeared completely into his massive gut, and by the time his servants found him dead on the floor, the assassin had vanished without a trace. This isn't an often told Sunday school Bible story. This is a masterclass in psychological warfare, espionage, and divine justice that makes modern thrillers look tame. For 18 crushing years, the Israelites lived like slaves under the most disgusting king. Eglon of Moab wasn't just a conqueror, he was a walking symbol of greed made flesh. While his people starved, he grew so morbidly obese that the Bible makes a point of calling him a very fat man. Picture this. In a world where most people fought for scraps, this king was literally consuming the life force of an entire nation. His body was his throne room's most obscene decoration, a monument to gluttony built on Israel's suffering. But what if I told you that this tyrant's greatest weakness wasn't his army, his politics, or even his cruelty? And it would become the key to the most shocking assassination in biblical history. God's answer came in the form of the most unlikely assassin imaginable, Ehud, a left-handed man from the tribe of Benjamin. In the ancient world, this wasn't just unusual, it was seen as a defect. The right hand was the hand of honor, strength, and blessing. The left hand? It was associated with weakness and deception. The Hebrew text even suggests Ehud might have had a disabled right hand. Here's the beautiful irony. Benjamin literally means son of my right hand, yet God chose a left-handed man from this tribe to save Israel. This wasn't an accident. This was divine strategy. God deliberately picks the overlooked, the flawed, the seemingly weak to do the impossible. And Ehud's weakness was about to become the most lethal advantage in military history. Because while everyone was watching for right-handed threats, death was coming from the left. Picture this scene. Ehud stands in his workshop, forging an 18-inch double-edged sword. Not a massive warrior's blade, but something perfectly sized for concealment and killing. As a left-handed man, he straps it to his right thigh, the one place no palace guard would ever think to check. Every right-handed assassin in history carried their weapon on the left side for a quick right-handed draw. Guards knew this. They'd pat down the left side religiously. But Ehud? He was carrying death on his right thigh, hidden under his robes, completely invisible to their expectations. Now imagine the walk to the palace. Every step, that cold steel pressed against his leg. Every guard who searched him, missing the weapon that would change history. One man, one blade, one perfectly exploited blind spot. If you think this story is intense so far, wait until you see how Ehud actually pulls off the assassination. The psychological manipulation he uses is so brilliant, it would make modern spies jealous. When Ehud arrived at Eglon's palace, he didn't just deliver tribute. He delivered a performance worthy of an Oscar. But the real genius wasn't in what he said to get close to the king. It was in the 4 words that sealed Eglon's fate. Ehud played the perfect loyal subject, presenting the heavy tribute with his men. King Eglon, sitting in his private rooftop chamber to escape the desert heat, probably accepted the payment with the smug satisfaction of a man who owned an entire nation. But then Ehud made his move. After dismissing his men, he returned alone and leaned in close to the massive king with a conspiratorial whisper, "I have a secret message for you, O king." Those words triggered something in Eglon's psychology that Ehud was counting on. But what Ehud said next would make the king stand up and sign his own death warrant. "I have a message from God for you." 4 words. That's all it took. Eglon's reaction was exactly what Ehud predicted. Whether from respect, curiosity, or arrogance, the massive king began pushing his enormous body up from his throne. In that moment of vulnerability, half standing, off balance, completely defenseless, Ehud struck. His left hand flashed across his body to the hidden sword on his right thigh. One fluid motion, one perfect thrust. The 18-inch blade plunged deep into Eglon's massive belly with such force that the entire weapon, blade and hilt, vanished into his flesh. But here's where the story gets even more brilliant. Ehud didn't panic, didn't try to retrieve his weapon, didn't make any of the mistakes that would have gotten him caught. Instead, he did something so psychologically clever that it bought him all the time he needed to escape. Ehud calmly stepped out of the death chamber, locked the doors from the outside, and simply walked away. No running, no suspicious behavior. Just a man finishing his business at the palace. When the king's servants returned and found the doors locked, they made a fatal assumption that gave Ehud his perfect escape window. He must be relieving himself, they reasoned. Their politeness, their reluctance to disturb the king during such a private moment, became Ehud's greatest ally. Minutes turned to hours. The servants waited and waited. By the time embarrassment finally overcame protocol, and they broke down the doors to find their master dead on the floor, Ehud ran to the hill country and blew a shofar, a trumpet call that echoed across the mountains like a battle cry. His message was electric. "Follow me. The Lord has given your enemies into your hand." 18 years of oppression exploded into action. The Israelites, fired up by this incredible act of defiance, seized the Jordan River crossings and cut off the Moabite escape routes. In the battle that followed, they struck down 10,000 Moabite soldiers, every single one described as strong and able-bodied. Not one escaped. But the real victory wasn't just military. It was something that would change Israel for generations. The assassination and decisive battle completely shattered Moab's hold on Israel. The land had peace, not for a few years, but for 80 years. That's the longest period of rest mentioned in the entire book of Judges. Think about that. One left-handed man with an 18-inch sword bought his nation 8 decades of freedom. One person who refused to accept that his weakness was actually a weakness changed the course of history. And that brings us to the most powerful lesson of this entire story. One that could change how you see your own life. Ehud's story destroys every excuse we make about not being enough. Not strong enough, not smart enough, not connected enough, not perfect enough. God doesn't look for the perfect, the conventional, or the obviously qualified. He looks for the willing. Your quirks, your oddities, your so-called weaknesses, these aren't bugs in your design. They're features. They're the very things that make you uniquely equipped for purposes you haven't even discovered yet. Ehud's left-handedness, seen as a defect by his culture, became the key that unlocked his nation's freedom. What weakness in your life could actually be your hidden superpower, just waiting for its moment? Open loop. This story proves that the most unlikely people can change the world in the most unexpected ways. And if you found this tale of divine justice and hidden strength as powerful as I do, there's so much more where this came from. This story of turning weakness into strength is just one example of the incredible wisdom hidden in biblical narratives. That's exactly why I've created an entire series diving deep into the most shocking, powerful, and life-changing stories that most people never hear in church. Stories that read like modern thrillers but contain ancient wisdom that can transform how you see yourself and your potential. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss these incredible stories that prove truth, and drop a comment below.